Hey folks, end all be all here, and we are back with a guide video this time. It's been a while since I've put one of these videos out, but a few months ago I put out a video on a 3v3 GL counter guide, which was pretty well received. And I thought that now with a couple of new GLs coming out, with Star Killer and the Omicrons coming out, and with the new format of GAC, I felt it's a good time for us to go ahead and refresh this guide. So what I've done is I've gone through and collected a bunch of community content and just put together some of my thoughts, and I'm going to be presenting it in this video. Hope you guys find it useful. Before getting into the guide itself, just a quick note on how this guide is structured. Just a fair warning: it's an extremely long guide. It's going to be probably closer to an hour. It's going to be extremely dense. There's going to be a lot of material in there, so you might have to rewatch it. So make sure that you bookmark it for future reference, and then come back to it to watch those portions which are relevant for you. As I mentioned, this is going to be an aggregation of content from a lot of different content creators. There's a ton of really good insights and ideas in the community, which have helped us to develop all these counters for GLs, especially the off-meta counters and some of the ideas on cleanup and all of that. So that's what exactly we're going to talk about in this video. We're going to talk about how GLs will counter other GLs. We're going to talk about if you don't have a GL, what are the potential off-meta counters that you can use against some of these GLs. And then if you've gone ahead and attacked a GL and then maybe left his team standing, or maybe killed off his team and just left the GL standing, what are the options that you have for cleaning up the GL? And each GL will have a different way that you want to, different characters that you want to take in to clean them up. So we're going to talk about all of those things. So just a quick note on the guide to the video itself. So we'll have at the bottom in the description of the YouTube video, I'll have timestamps included for each and every GL. So if you want to go ahead and learn, say, how to counter JMK or Lord Vader, just skip directly to the timestamp and you will be taken to that part of the video. In addition to these timestamps in the description below, in the top right-hand corner, I'll also be having links to actual videos from other content creators, where you can, if you want to, if there's a particular concept that I'm talking about and you want to see that concept in action, you can feel free to go ahead and click on that link, and it'll take you directly to that particular video. So there'll be tons of videos in the top right-hand corners as links. And then just a final note, this guide is not meant to be comprehensive. As you all know, things are changing all the time, and new characters are going to come in, new counters are going to come in. Some things which were viable before might not be viable later on if CG decides to nerf it. And as always, if you have a better way of doing something, either something that you've developed or you've heard about in the community, let me know about it in the comments, and I can modify the guide to get those things updated. So as always, a high def version of the graphic is going to also be there in the pinned comments section below. So if you want to, after the video, if you want to go and take a look at the graphic itself, feel free to go ahead and click on that link, and you'll get a download of the high def version of the graphic. And that's the graphic that I'll keep updating from time to time as I figure out better counters and better ways of doing some of these things. Okay. Now we are done with the preamble. Let's go ahead and jump into the guide itself. So the way that I've structured this guide is very similar to my previous guide. I've got one axis for offense and then one for defense. So I've got each of the 6 GLs there, and I'm going to be talking about each GL bit by bit to talk about how to attack them on defense. So for example, the very first one is Rey. There are 2 different color codes over here. Yellow is meant for something which is an iffy counter, or something which may not give you good banners, or may not have a high chance of success. And green is something which is usually a high chance of success, good banners, easy enough to pull off without any crazy modding and all that. So it's basically just 2 color codes that I've had for counters, yellow and green. So let's go right from the beginning. So Rey, the very first column that I have, the very first cell that I have over there is Rey mirrors. Now Rey mirrors are typically more common in 3v3 than 5v5, but there are cases where you can get Rey mirrors done. The problem with that is very low banners, because whirlwinds, you can't really avoid whirlwinds. Even if you go into ultimate, there are times when you'll be out of ultimate where Rey Whirlwind is just going to take out one or two of your tanks. So there's a high chance of ending with low banners over there with Rey versus Rey. You can take in Hermit Yoda for the heal, Basti for applying ability blocks and tanks. You can take in all resistance characters like Hero Finn, Hero Foe. Holdo is actually a very good tank to pair along with here. If the enemy has got Rey Cat, that is actually a little bit more tricky for to handle. Because the stats get boosted up tremendously for the whole team. Rey's offense gets boosted up, her health gets boosted up, and in turn the bonus protection that she gives to the other light side characters, that gets boosted up as well. So for that, you need to, if you're going for a Rey mirror, it'll be good if you can get in Jedi Knight Revan so that you can mark Cat and get her out before she can reach her Force Leaf ability. Or you can get in Scarif Rebel Pathfinder, who's a reviving tank as long as he's got some buffs on him. You can get him. You can get in Scoundrels with Vandor in there to help revive the tank. Or you can also use Bad Batch. One of the things that I've found that I really enjoy using quite a lot in Rey mirrors is Rey with the 4 Bad Batch clones, excluding Omega. That tends to give me almost full banners in terms of a Rey mirror match. Yes, it is expensive because Bad Batch by themselves can take out tons of other teams, including Omicron, Qui-Gon Jinn, General Grievous, Separatist squads, First Order squads. But if you can afford it and you're really in desperate need for banners, Rey with Bad Batch is another good option for mirrors. Moving over to the second cell, which is SLKR versus Rey. Now, SLKR, there are many great options for SLKR as well, but the problem is you'll be left with only SLKR standing towards the end. The rest of the team is going to die, which is why this team is also yellow in terms of counters. You've got you have to take in Hux Red, Crew or First Order Stormtrooper, any one tank, anything to give turns to SLKR and get him to give his ultimate fast, and then you have to time the ultimate in the right way so that when you basically have to wait for Rey to come out of the ultimate, and then you can get into you actually have to get into your ultimate before Rey gets into her ultimate, so that you can withstand all of the extra damage that she does. Especially with Cat in there, you need someone like Phasma to feed turn meter to the team so that you can get to the 3 stacks of ultimate as soon as you can. Little dicey and really not done very often because there are much better counters to Rey. And coming to that, there are the other 4 GLs. They have a much easier time countering Rey. JML, for example, pretty easy. You get a Hermit Yoda in there. You get 1 damage dealer, JKL or Cam, and then Hermit Yoda and Shakti, both of them constantly heal up. Jedi Master Luke, and then all the whirlwinds that Rey has, he keeps absorbing them like it's no big deal at all. So that's why JML is a really great counter to Rey. If there's a Cat over there with Rey, then it helps to get around the tank. You can do one of two things. You can either get Jedi Knight Revan to target Cat and take her out quite early. But even if you're not able to take her out early, even if you can't afford Jedi Knight Revan, it's perfectly fine because Jedi Master Luke will be able to absorb the whirlwinds. So if Cat is there and you can't afford JKR, then you have to focus on getting to your ultimate as soon as you can, so that you can ignore the taunt, go directly after Cat and take her out, and prevent all of the damage from Rey. One thing to note on the JML counter to Rey is JML, by the nature of his kit, he'll be giving a lot of turn meter generation for his team. With every time they use the lead ability, they gain 5 to 10% turn meter, I believe. GMY, every time he goes, he gains turn meter. Old Ben, if he's in the team, he gains turn meter when Jedi get hit as well. JKL as well. So all of this turn meter gain is actually going to feed mastery to Rey. And if you allow her to get to the second ultimate, then her ultimate is going to end up doing tons of damage and can take out some of the side characters. So you might want to get in Jolie if you think that the battle might last a little longer than usual. And then you come to Sith Eternal Emperor. He's a very standard counter to Rey, hard green over there. You just take in Water and Armorer, and it should be pretty simple to get the job done. You just have to be a little careful if the heroes are in there and JTR is in there, and especially if Cat is in there as well. JTR applies healing immunity, which is not that great for Watt. Cat gives extra offense to Rey, which can help to take him down. So in that case, you need to get in both Watt and Armorer, as well as a pre-taunter to take the to take some of the brunt of the initial damage, both the healing immunity as well as the initial whirlwind from Cat if needed, or whirlwind from Rey. And then it's important if in those scenarios to, if you've got armorer with you, you need to get 3 stacks on Sith Eternal so that you can survive some of Rey's damage over there. If Sith Eternal standing alone and Cat is still not taken out, then when Rey goes into ultimate, she will most likely take out your Sith Eternal no matter what the situation is. Even if he's modded for like 200k health, if Cat is in there and Rey is in ultimate and Sith Eternal is the only guy there, it's bad news for you. So you need to take out Cat before Rey has a chance to go into ultimate or before your allies die. The recommended modding for Sith Eternal is to go with at least 190 to 200k health. That helps you survive most offense modded Reys. Then you've got the two newer Jedi's, the two newer GLs, Jedi Master Kenobi and Lord Vader. Those are pretty easy to handle. I'm sure a lot of you have had encounters of these also if you've got JMK and Lord Vader. JMK, even if you're not able to spare Cat, there are ways around, getting through Rey. You can, you get to your ultimate pretty fast, and you can ignore taunt and take out all the problematic characters, and then go directly for Rey and apply healing immunity. Just keep knocking her down. And then if you've got the heroes in there, they'll be assisting a lot. So it might be good to have Padme in there. If they've got Cat in there for the Rey, then it might be good to have an extra tank, GK and Mace maybe, just to so that one of them can help to take an extra whirlwind or two and help your Cat survive to take out Rey. But in general, it should not be a problem with JMK. With Lord Vader, that's a pretty easy comp as well. You just take in Vader with some tanks, and Rey will not be able to kill you. And you can just with the dots that Vader applies, Lord Vader applies, the allies for Rey will probably die, and it's going to be a pretty easy job to kill Rey once Lord Vader reaches an ultimate or two. So those are the GL counters to Rey. And then on non-GL counters, this is a little more tougher for Rey with a full, a decent version of Rey. It actually might get a little bit tricky to counter. If there's no Cat and if there's no resistance heroes, then Gas sometimes has a chance of working. What you need to do is you need to you need all the buffs which are being generated. They help to ramp up Gas's offense. You need to make sure that once Gas is sitting down, that Rex's form up ability, the ability which gives turn meter and tenacity up to everyone, that is available, because that's what boosts everyone's turn meter and enables them to take more turns and prevent enemies or actually lessen the enemy turns, so that Gas can get up faster. Now Gas can get up in 5 turns instead of the previous 10 turns. So you need to make sure that your team takes as many turns as can while Gas is sitting down. And then take out, once Gas stands up, he can take out the side characters, and he'll be able to absorb at least one ultimate. Whirlwind will probably make him sit down immediately, so you have to make sure that you time the whirlwind so that Gas absorbs it when he's sitting down. If Rey's whirlwind is available while Gas is sitting down and takes out a few clones, then you're probably not going to be able to clean up Rey. You might have to leave Rey and one or two characters standing and then clean up with something else. Another team which has just come out with Mara Jade in there is EP, Vader, Mara Jade, Thrawn, and Watt. This has been doing some pretty decent on some comps of Rey as well. Again, you have to be careful if the heroes are in there, because you have to do what you can to dispel the Inspire. But apart from that, I think this is also a pretty straightforward counter. If you're lacking options and you don't have anything else, and this option is available to you, there's no harm in trying this out. You might be able to pull off at least, if not a surprise win, at least you'll be able to take out some of the side characters. Now, if Rey is left standing, what are the options that you have to clean up? Unfortunately, not as many for Rey, but there are plenty of things you can do. You can take in bounty hunters with Boba, Mando. They take tons of turns, and they can help to take care of Rey. You can take in the turn meter team, Mon Mothma turn meter team, which is Mon Mothma, Pow, Biston, Kara, and Scout. That will help to take tons of turns and help to bring Rey down. She will probably might need to come down to damage immunity, and then you might have to absorb a whirlwind. Somebody might die, but with the other four characters, you might be able to work through Rey. Another common thing that people like to do is they like to throw in burner teams against Rey to get her into red health, so that she doesn't have a chance to go into damage immunity and she doesn't have a chance to do her lifeblood. Then it becomes a much easier cleanup for Rey. So if you can afford more than two battle cleanup, then that also is an option. Troopers, Bad Batch are also again good options. Bad Batch especially have got tons of survivability against Rey. Wrecker can take at least a couple of whirlwinds. So those are expensive options, but can still be done used as a cleanup option. So that's about Rey. Let's move over to SLKR and talk about how we want to counter SLKR when you see them on defense. Now, there's usually two versions of SLKR that you're going to see on defense. You're going to see the pure first order version, or you're going to see the Daka zombie version, which means there might be Hux or a first order officer in there, maybe another first order tank, and then Daka and zombie. Now, for Rey versus SLKR, it's also a low banner win at times, just because you've got SLKR will probably go into his ultimate and take out at least most of Rey's allies. But if you're able to time your ultimates with Rey right, you should be able to wait until SLKR comes out of his ultimate stance, and then you once you've already deleted a few of his characters with Whirlwind, once you go into your ultimate, you should be able to take SLKR out if you wait for the right time. It's a little more tricky if Daka and Zombie are in there, because your Whirlwind is going to get wasted on Zombie, and the side characters are still going to be there. So in those cases, what I like to do is I like to get in Jedi Knight Revan and target Daka, do the whirlwind on her, take out Daka so that she doesn't get revived, and then carry on with the rest of the battle, and that should be fine. It's in some ways it's easier because SLKR doesn't develop his ultimate as fast when Daka and Zombie are in there, but yeah, I've very rarely seen the SLKR Daka Zombie team on defense in 5v5. But in case you do and you only have Rey, you have a few ways around it. SLKR mirrors are again just like Rey mirrors. They're a little dirty. You have to get your ultimate faster than the enemy SLKR gets to the ultimate. You have to delete as many characters as you can. I would recommend a full first order team, Hux, Red, and then a couple of tanks, first order Stormtrooper and Crew, to absorb some of those hits, because Crew is going to stun one of the tanks and the other one can then start taunting, and then you can at least soak up some damage while your team builds up SLKR's ultimate. Again, I've left it as yellow just like the Rey battle, because even though it's possible to win, you end up with very bad banners against SLKR in a mirror match. Now, JML, it's a very easy match. JML is designed to be a hard counter to SLKR, very similar to how Sith Eternal Emperor was designed to be a hard counter to Rey. Now, JML, you can take in any comp really. It works really well, even with lesser grade Jedi. But a couple of things to remember: the weaknesses of SLKR are foresight and ability block. If you apply these on him, then he's going to have a tough time getting to his ultimate. He's going to have a tough time getting damage, and tough time using his abilities. So get in characters, Jedis, which apply foresight and ability block. If you want, you can get in Old Ben, Grandmaster Yoda, Hermit Yoda. You need to get in one damage dealer at least, because you, apart from Jedi Master Luke's lead, it's good to have at least one damage dealer, at least GMY or Cam or JKL. And then, if you want to have some healing, Shakti and Hermit Yoda are great as well. But this is generally a very easy match, so I won't spend much time on this counter. Sith Eternal. Now, SLKR was again, meant to be a hard counter to Sith Eternal. So this is not a match that you'll see a lot, which is taking in your own Sith Eternal against an SLKR. If you do things wrong, then you can basically end up getting killed. The SLKR can wipe out your whole team. But there are some ways around it. You can, if you want, you can take in. It's expensive. You need to take in both Watt and Armorer, and maybe a tank or two, a Sith tank or two, so that you can make sure that you get your tank tech on Sith Eternal. You can get armorers. You have to wait till you get 3 stacks of the armorer stack on Sith Eternal so that he can start countering, and then take that team against SLKR. So SLKR, what he's going to do is he's probably going to kill the surrounding characters, the tanks first. Water's going to die, and Armorer hopefully will die only after she gives out the 3 stacks to Sith Eternal, and then everyone in the team will be dead. SLKR will start doing his ultimate and all of that, and Sith Eternal, since he's got 3 stacks of the armorer stack, he will start countering each of SLKR's allies and killing them, and even the ultimate will not be able to kill off Sith Eternal because he's got both Watt and armor in there regenerating protection for him, and ultimately it might get close to 5 minutes, but you should be able to get SLKR down. But again, this counter has been tagged as yellow because it's not recommended. You'll get low banners, and there's a high chance of failure over here as well. The 2 newer GLs, JMK and Lord Vader, have no problem at all countering SLKR. It's extremely easy. You probably don't even need Cat or Maul in there for them to counter SLKR. Again, like I mentioned, you can take in GMY for foresight with the JMK if you want. Snips is great to allow you to reach ultimate fast. GK is great, or you can use any other tank, Galactic Republic tank as well. For Lord Vader, it's actually pretty possible to solo SLKR with Lord Vader in there because he's got so much of health and so much of stats, especially at higher relic levels, that there's not enough damage that these guys will be able to do, and they won't be able to build up their ultimate as fast as well. So it's possible to solo SLKR using Lord Vader. If they've got the Daka zombie version, it can get a little problematic because you might tend to get stuck behind the zombie taunt. But Dots actually should be able to take care of both Daka and zombie, so that's not much of an issue. But if you want extra insurance, you can get in Vader and Royal Guard in there as well. Those 3 should be able to take out the SLKR Daka zombie version pretty effectively. SLKR is one of those GLs when you talk about non-GL counters to SLKR, off-meta counters. SLKR is one of those GLs who's got tons of options to use against him. They are expensive because they force you to use your premium Jedi like JKR, JKL, but Jedi Knight Luke especially is the one character who's a straight up hard off-meta counter to SLKR. There are 2 teams over here I'll talk about that. You can use Jedi Knight Luke to counter SLKR. One is the classic JKR, JKL, Old Ben, Basti, Hermit Yoda. You need to make sure that your Old Ben is fast enough in this counter so that SLKR, especially a speedy SLKR, if he double laps your Old Ben, then this counter can go south. So you need to make sure that your Old Ben is fast enough. I like to keep my Old Ben at between 270 to 280 speed for this counter, and then JKR is going to absorb the initial taunt, initial poke from SLKR, and then the whole battle can be controlled pretty easily. Again, low banners sometimes, but you can get a one shot pretty easily against SLKR. The second counter using Jedi Knight Luke is to use Jedi Knight Revan, Jedi Knight Luke, and then use Armorer and Hermit Yoda. So Hermit Yoda is going to put the Master's Training on Jedi Knight Luke. Jedi Knight Revan is in there to absorb the initial poke and then pass the turn meter over to Jedi Knight Luke so that he can stun the surrounding characters. Hermit Yoda puts the Master's Training on Jedi Knight Luke. Armorer will get 3 stacks because Jedi Knight Revan will get poked, and that gives Armorer 3 stacks. So Armorer immediately puts the 3 stacks of Beskar on Jedi Knight Luke, and then the rest of the battle is just Jedi Knight Luke. Even if the other characters die, which they most probably will, JKR, Armorer, and Hermit Yoda are going to die. Jedi Knight Luke will be standing there with 3 stacks of Beskar and with Master's Training, and he's going to counter everyone to death, even SLKR. And nothing that SLKR can do can get rid of JKL at that point of time because he's almost like half a GL by that time. And JKL is, JKL and if Hermit Yoda is already surviving over there, both of them should be able to take care of SLKR pretty easily. Low banners, but again, one shot without the need for a Jedi or a GL comp. Recently, Omicron Qui-Gon Jinn also can do a decent job. If not directly one shot the whole team, they can at least get rid of the side characters, especially if the right character is stunned. This is a little more dicey and I wouldn't recommend it, but you can at least get rid of the side characters and then take in another team to clean up SLKR. So speaking of cleanup, what are the other options to clean up SLKR? Very similar to Rey, you can use a turn meter loaded turn meter generation teams like Mon Mothma, Pao, Kara, Biston, and Baze. Baze is in there instead of Scout because you want to absorb the initial stun from SLKR. If you use a burner team to get rid of the stun, if the stun is off cooldown, then you can probably use Scout in there instead of Baze. Other turn meter generation teams like Geos, those are great options as well. Don't use Poggle in there. Use Thrawn or someone to at least have some sort of a control over SLKR, and then the rest of the geos should be able to get the job done. The reason you shouldn't be using Poggle is Poggle does a little bit of turn meter reduction, and that ends up giving tons of health and protection to SLKR because of his unique. Troopers are another good option to clean up, and CLS as well, although that is expensive. But if you don't have any choice and you want a sure thing, CLS is a great option to clean up SLKR. Especially if you land the right a blind at the right time, the SLKR is going to whiff on his special, and if he tries to stun the wrong character, a character who's guarded, then all 5 of your characters will still be in action, and CLS should make the job pretty easy to clean up. All right, so we've finished with SLKR. Let's move over to Jedi Master Luke. Now, Jedi Master Luke is again one of those GLs which I find amazing on offense. He is, he is really one of the topmost characters that you need to get to relic level 9, because he just benefits so much from higher relic levels. He's usually not kept on defense, so you usually won't see him as much. But if you do see him on defense, this is what you need to do. Rey and Kylo, they have a tough time against JML, especially if they are faster. And if he lands a ability block at the wrong time, then both JML, both SLKR and Rey teams can sometimes struggle. With Rey, if you want to counter JML, you can take in Jedi in there. GMY is great for the foresight, JK to focus down and take out some problematic characters. Watt is also great to land the tank tech on Rey so that she keeps some of the protection up, and maybe if you're able to mark some of the key characters down, JKR can mark some key characters down, and then Rey can go in and whirlwind some of them to take out his allies before you can focus down on Jedi Master Luke. For SLKR, it's going to be problematic because if he gets ability blocked, then it's game over if you take in a regular first order squad. So you can't go in with the regular first order squad for SLKR against JML. JML is a hard counter to SLKR again. So you need to go in with the Sith trio, DR, Malak, Basti, and Watt in there. So Watt to give the tank tech to SLKR so that he doesn't get ability blocked and controlled. And DR is great because JML, who's the leader, is going to be taunting. DR can go and fear the rest of his team and keep the team in check and control, while you've got Basti and Malak also doing their thing. That is going to buy some time for SLKR to be able to get a job done against JML. So regular first order team is going to get slaughtered, but if you really have no other option and you need to use SLKR against JML, you can use the Sith trio and Watt to get that job done. Now, as I mentioned, JML is usually kept on offense and not defense. That's the reason is this, that if you see the other 4 GLs, JML, Sith Eternal, JMK, and Lord Vader, they all have a really easy time taking out JML. JML mirrors, if you're faster, then you can basically take in 1 damage dealing Jedi, 1 healer, Jolie in there, and then you can control the situation. If you're slower, you can go with Jedi Knight Revan lead to give the tenacity up and the foresight so that the enemy JML whiffs on the efflux. Or you can go in with Watt to land the tank tech on JML if you're slower. If you're for Sith Eternal, that's a hard counter. You can just take in Sith Eternal and Watt, and you should be able to take care of almost any Jedi Master Luke comps. If you don't have Watt, then any armorer and a Sith tank works as well. You just need to get to your ultimate, delete a few of them, and then you should be able to take care of Jedi Master Luke pretty easily. You've got JMK and Lord Vader as well, who can do a pretty decent job against them. JMK You can go with the regular option of Cat, Snips, GK, or Mace, any one of those tanks. Jedi Knight Anakin is actually pretty good to have in the JMK team just because he can land buff immunity on his basic, which means that you can get stop JML from taunting and go after some of his enemies. But it really doesn't matter because JMK gets to his ultimate pretty fast and he's able to take out the side characters as needed. And in most cases, you can take 2 or 3 characters out before JML even has a chance to get to the ultimate. So it's a hard counter there. Same thing with Vader and tanks. Especially if Vader is faster than JML, then it's a really easy option. Just take in Vader and tanks, survive till a few ultimates, keep landing dots on everyone, and you'll be able to take care of them pretty easily. If you're slower or if you want more survivability, if it's an R9 JML you're going up against, for example, Gideon is also a good option apart from a few tanks for some extra survivability. Now, off meta counters to JML, this one I've kept in yellow because even though it does work, it depends on the comp of JML that you're facing. If it's a relatively weak JML squad, then gas can actually work pretty well. I have seen a few teams take out with gas taking out JML squads. You've got GG Newt, which actually does a really good job against semi-weak to mid-tier JML teams as well. GG Newt, the way it works is you spread tons of extortion, you spread tons of target lock, not extortion, and then all of that. As long as you keep doing AOE's and attacking people with target locks, you keep generating turn meter for the GG Newt team, and you can take out with all the AOE's that B1 does. You can take out the enemy characters pretty easily. And then the healing immunity from GG also is pretty effective in getting JML down. So I've used it a couple of times. It's pretty effective. We've got no other options. GG Newt is great against JML as well. And lately, with Mara Jade coming into the picture, EP, Vader, Mara Jade, Treya, and Watt also have a pretty decent chance of succeeding against most options of JML squads. They have, especially if you've got the right modding on some of them, they do a pretty decent job as well. So some of these are more reliable than the others, and it all depends on the comp of JML that you're seeing. And obviously, it's going to get tougher if it's R8, R9 JML, especially with really good speed on them. But it is definitely possible to use a non-GL comp against them. For cleanup, apart from Mon Mothma and Geos that I've already spoken about for cleanup for other GLs, one thing which really does work against a GML is going to be JTR with BB-8 and R2-D2 and Wet Han. Now, unlike a few other GLs, JML is very susceptible to stagger and turn meter reduction. And there's tons of that in this particular team. JTR has turn meter reduction. Her lead gives a turn meter reduction if the enemy is exposed. And then any of the resistance allies use specials. You can use R2-D2 to spread foresight and hide everyone. And you can use Wet Han, who has a stagger ability on his basic to keep reducing JML's turn meter. And then the healing immunity, the locked healing immunity from JTR actually is pretty great to prevent a lone at JML from taking turns and from healing up. So that's an additional option that you have for JML cleanup. Now let's move over to Sith Eternal Emperor. And Sith Eternal, you'll see over here across the board that he's just like JML. He's another GL who a lot of people prefer to keep on offense because he's so easy to take out on defense. If you see some of the counters for Sith Eternal, most of them are solo. You can take in Rey solo against Sith Eternal. You can take in SLKR solo. You can take in Lord Vader solo. And then if the Sith Eternal team does not have any ability block characters like Dooku or Vader, then you can even take in JMK solo against each of these. Even Sith Eternal mirror matches, you just have to take in Watt, and it's a pretty easy mirror match as well solo. The only GL which has a relatively tough time against Sith Eternal is Basti, is JML. But there is a way to get around that. If you take JML with the Basti lead and get a high damage dealing Jedi like JKL and Hermit Yoda and Watt just to provide some healing and some extra Master's training and damage, you might be able to get Sith Eternal down depending on the comp that is there. But it's really not recommended because there's so many better uses for JML and there's so many other easier teams that can take out Sith Eternal. Rey, you can do it solo, but then if you've got ability block characters over there, then you can take in Watt over there, give the tank tech to Rey, and then Watt will die pretty easily, so there's no chance of Sith Eternal reaching his ultimate. And then Rey will be able to finish off the rest of his team with whirlwinds, and then finally with ultimate he should be able to finish Sith Eternal out as well. So that's the general theme against Sith Eternal. Use solos, because if you get in more than one character, then he's going to reach his ultimate because he can link multiple people. But if you take in something solo, then Sith Eternal doesn't have the benefit of his ultimate, while your GL is going to have the benefit of their ultimate. So that's countering Sith Eternal with the GL. Non-GL counters also, there are tons of options available for Sith Eternal. It's one of the easiest GLs to take out, probably even easier than SLKR with off-meta counters. GG Newt, which works for JML, also works on Sith Eternal. Again, the same principles apply there. There's tons of turn meter generation that GG Newt has with the target locks and all that. And General Grievous has the healing immunity, which if he lands on Sith Eternal, prevents him from healing up using his first special. The other options, Omicron Qui-Gon Jinn actually has done a pretty decent job in countering Sith Eternal. I've used it in one of my matches last week as well in GAC to counter Sith Eternal. You've got Maul, who actually does a really good job, especially paired up with Watt and Django to take out Sith Eternal team. Karth is also really useful in there. And it's good to have BAM in there just for some extra insurance, but you can also use Armorer or Bo-Katan as well in there. Maul is also a really good option to take out Sith Eternal Emperor. Cleanups, you've got the standard cleanup options. You've got Troopers, you've got Mon Mothma, you've got Boss Grief, Bounty Hunters. All of these can do a pretty decent job of cleaning up Sith Eternal Emperor when he's either solo or even if with one or two characters. It should be a reasonably easy job to clean up Sith Eternal. Now let's come over to the next two GLs, which are the newer GLs that we've had. Let's start with the JMK. Now, Jedi Master Kenobi is one of the toughest GLs to counter, no doubt. Especially if he's with the right team, then he can be pretty problematic to take out. Let's start from the top. Rey. Now, Rey, there is a specific counter that has been developed that a lot of people use to climb against JMKs in arena. Is you have to use Rey Jedi to counter JMK. The way that you have to do it is you need to get in JKR, Jolie, Jedi Knight Luke, and a lot of people prefer Grandmaster Yoda and a lot of people prefer Hermit Yoda. You can go either way. JKR is in there so that you can first pass the turn meter to Luke, Jedi Knight Luke, stun everyone to control the situation a little better, and then JKR goes in and marks Cat, and then you have to focus down and kill Cat, preferably before Jedi Master Kenobi's ultimate. You might not be able to do it before the ultimate, but if Rey is able to get her whirlwind, then she can at least exhaust Cat's first savior before the ultimate. Grandmaster Yoda actually is pretty good because most of the GLs tend to go after him first, so he sort of acts like a magnet for damage. And you've got Jolie in there to revive him in case he gets taken out. You've also got a savior from Jedi Knight Revan, but Jolie is also there to revive him in case he gets taken out. If you don't have Grandmaster Yoda and you've got Hermit Yoda in there, then the Jedi Master Kenobi team is going to go after JKR. He's the next hottest target out there. So you have to do what you can to keep him alive and keep healing him up. I'll leave a link to the video over there. You can go check it out. But it is definitely possible to use this counter effectively, especially if you've practiced a few times in arena and you've got the order down. SLKR against JMK. Now, this is a little more tricky to handle because there's really no clean option to use against here. If you go in with a full first order squad, you're going to die pretty horribly. So you need to go in with the Watt, Thrawn, and then a couple of permanent tanks. Then those permanent tanks could be either Daka Zombie or GBA, for example. If you get in GBA with the Brute, you get an extra slot so you can get an Armorer in there. So that counter tends to be a little more consistent compared to the Daka Zombie one. So Watt is in there to give the tank tech to SLKR so that he doesn't get ability blocked and doesn't get debuffs on him. Thrawn is there to either fracture the taunt the tank, or to pass the turn meter on to SLKR as needed so that he can build up his ultimate. Armorer again to build up stacks on SLKR, and both the brute as well as the zombie are there to absorb the initial force sleep from Cat, and to at least take some heat off of SLKR so that they don't focus down on him. So this is a counter which again I've marked as yellow because it may work, it may not work. There's a, it's touch and go, but if you have no other option but SLKR versus JMK, you can take some of these options in against it and try your luck. JML. Now, this is the most consistent counter to Jedi Master Kenobi. And I think, especially if you've got R8, R9 JML, you've got a really high chance of ending with really high banners over here, much more than even some of the newer GLs countering JMK. The team that, again, very similar to the one that is the Rey counter that you need to take in is with JML is JKR, Jolie, Jedi Knight Luke, and either Grandmaster Yoda or Hermit Yoda. I personally prefer to use Hermit Yoda. I've had more success with it, but Grandmaster Yoda is a great option as well. Like I said, he's a magnet for damage, so the other characters tend to do a decent job in controlling the situation while your Grandmaster Yoda is getting all the damage. He gets foresight all the time, Grandmaster Yoda, and he helps to steal the buffs from the enemy and spread them around. So that's the extra advantage of Grandmaster Yoda. I just like, but if you've got a very high relic JML, I prefer to go in with Hermit Yoda because what I like to do is I like to give the Master's training to Jedi Master Luke, and then have him do all the damage. My goal is to reach ultimate as soon as I can. And then what I do is once I reach ultimate, then you can ignore taunt, you can go and kill Cat, kill the other character, Snips next, and the other damage dealer before going on to GK. And then once you're left with only Kenobi, Grandmaster Kenobi, it's extremely easy to take care of the situation because once you reach your ultimate, you'll be alternating between those two specials. One is to apply ability block. The other is to reduce the cooldowns, and both of these will really control the situation, and you've won the battle. So especially if you reach the ultimate early enough with most of your Jedi surviving, then it's a really easy battle for JMK versus JML versus JMK. Now, Sith Eternal is again a yellow because it can be done, but it's again very iffy, especially with some of the changes that they've made to JMK. You need to take in Watt, Armorer, GBA, and Thrawn. GBA just because you get that extra slot for the Brute as well. So Brute is going to absorb the initial ultimate. Watt is going to give the tank tech to Sith Eternal, and Armorer is going to give the 3 stacks to Sith Eternal. But the problem is if JMK reaches ultimate fast, because they're able to ignore taunt and they're able to ignore protection, your Sith Eternal Emperor can go down pretty fast. But if you're able to survive long enough to get the ultimate out, you can at least take care of a few characters in the team before you can go in with the cleanup. So that's the approach you need to take with Sith Eternal. JMK mirrors, I'm sure a lot of you must be familiar with these. It's pretty straightforward. We've been doing them in the arena forever. Cat, Snips, and a Taunt, GK, Mace, Jedi Knight Garden. Taunt really doesn't matter because especially if the enemy team has got Cat, you're going to be playing 4v4. Padme is great because all the assists that the JMK team does adds a little bit extra survivability to your team. If your Cat is faster, then the enemy the enemy Cat, then you can get R2 in there as well, and then hide everyone except for JMK. You need to obviously not take a taunt in. You have to leave out your taunting tank like GK, go in with someone else like Padme or Jedi Knight Anakin. Pass the Terminator from Cat to R2, hide everyone except for Jedi Master Kenobi, and then Cat wastes her force sleep on Jedi Master Kenobi, and then it's a 5v4 battle. You can go in 5 characters versus 4 and control the situation and win the battle pretty easily. So it's a pretty standard counter. Maul versus Jedi Master Kenobi. This is again, it's an expensive counter because you need Maul in there. You need Vader, Maul, Royal Guard, and a tank or 2 in there, and it's going to be low banners. But it's definitely possible to do. The Jedi Master Kenobi team, if it has Padme, it can get really tricky because they've got two sources of cleanse, Padme and GK. So it can get a little tricky, and you might in some cases even time out. But you'll need to have Maul in there so that you can get to your ultimate fast. What Maul enables you to do is basically what you need to do is you'll start with 5 stacks of anguish. You need to reduce the cooldown on JM on cat first, and then do one of your special abilities, and then immediately do your first special because you want to get back to 5 stacks. Next turn for Maul, go and reduce the turn meter, reduce the cooldown on another one of JMK's allies, either Padme if she's there or GK for the cleanse, so that they don't cleanse and control the situation too early. Once you've done that, if you've got a high relic with Maul especially, you'll be able to get GK down pretty easily and control the battle. The key over here for Vader versus JMK is to get the tank down ASAP. If it's Mace, it's going to be much easier. If it's going to be GK, it's going to be really tough, especially GK with Padme. So you need to do what you can to get the tank down, and once the tank is down, JMK will be able to solo the rest of the team. Even if he not JMK, Lord Vader will be able to solo the rest of the team, even if he loses all of his allies, because he'll keep getting ultimate after ultimate. These guys are going to have a tough time killing him, and Lord Vader will be able to go in and take out all the other characters one by one, as long as the tank on the JMK team is dead. That is extremely crucial. All right, so those are the GL counters to JMK. Non-GL counters, unfortunately, there are very, very few. The newer GLs have got typically limited options for non-GL counters. If there's no cat in there, then you can take in gas against it and take care of the JMK squad. All the buffs that they generate just ramps up gas's damage tremendously, and it should be an easy enough job to take it out. You can also use Padme. Padme, Snips, Cat, C3PO, or GMY. Both C3PO and GMY work pretty well. And then take a pre-taunt, because that pre-taunt is going to be eaten up by Cat with the force sleep, and then Padme, Snips, Cat, and the fourth character, either C3PO or GMY, should be able to take down the rest of the characters. The thing over there is all the courage which gets built up by Padme's team, and with Cat in there, all the courage which gets built up, it gives them extra survivability, and it enables them to do tons of damage and to really melt Jedi Master Kenobi's allies. So that's another option that you have. It's expensive because you end up using Cat over here, but if you don't have your own JMK and you have got no other better way to use Cat, this might be another option. Cleaning up for JMK, you can clean up with gas, you can clean up with bounty hunters and troopers as well. Anything which is turn meter generation. Turn meter generation is not going to work over here, which is why you don't see Mon Mothma or others as an option. Actually, even troopers might not work, but if you're able to get enough if the JMK is low enough life and its cooldowns are already reduced, you might be able to get in a few good hits from Dark Trooper to get him taken down. But bounty hunters might be actually a better option for cleanup for lone JMK. He's one of the toughest GLs to clean up, definitely. And now we come on to the final GL, which is going to be Lord Vader. How do we use other GLs to counter him? The very first one, Rey. Rey is going to have a really tough time against a JMK, just because there's so many against Lord Vader, because there's so many dots which get landed over here that her team just melts around her. If you take in a standard resistance team, they just get melted around her, and they're not able to get much damage done on Lord Vader. But what you can do is there are two options that you can do. You can use your scoundrel team with Rey, Bam, Quill, IG-100, and Cat. What this is going to do is, IG has got a special where, or unique rather, where he dispels all the debuffs on his allies and then puts them on the enemy team. So this team, the dots and all the debuffs that they do, the ability blocks, the dots, and all of the other debuffs that the Lord Vader team does on you will not matter at all to the scoundrels, because IG-100 is there actually, it's not IG-100, it's IG-11, is there to dispel all the debuffs and transfer them and keep your team clean. It's going to be taunting most of the time too. Quill is there to just to revive IG-100 in case he gets taken out. Cat is there for the extra damage and for the extra stat boost, which she gives to the rest of the team. And Quill also gives a stat boost over there. Bam is again there for some extra damage immunity, and just because the whistling birds might be able to help take care of some of Vader's allies. Now this team again is expensive because it's got Cat, and you're ending up using a Bam Quill IG team over here. But this is probably one of the best chances that Rey has against Lord Vader, just because it keeps a clean team. There's no debuffs on them, and they have enough damage with Cat in there, and Bam in there to take out the side characters and take out Lord Vader when he's left standing by himself. Vader will not be able to do enough damage to this team without the debuffs, and Bam is able to apply uh, healing immunity on Lord Vader, which should also help. And you can also build up your damage with Cat and take out the combination of Bam and Cat should be able to take out Lord Vader soon enough. Then you've got the other squad that you can take in is Padme, GK, Snips, and Cat. If you don't have your own JMK team, and if you're not planning to use Padme, GK, Snips, and Cat anywhere else, you can club them with Rey, and then use that to take out Lord Vader. This team has got tons of cleanses as well. Padme can cleanse, GK can cleanse, Snips can cleanse on her basic, if it crits. And then Cat has got a targeted cleanse as well, which gives Shien to other characters. This also has got the ability to do tons of damage. It's got survivability, especially with Cat in there. And then you've got Rey who can do her own damage as well. In both these teams, you're not just having Cat and Bam and Snips doing damage over here. You also have Rey doing her own whirlwind. You've got Rey going into ultimate and taking care of Lord Vader as well. So that is another possibility. I didn't mark this as green because it is an expensive option, and it your mileage may vary depending on how you play the particular team. Now we come on to the other option, SLKR. SLKR versus Vader. Now this will work against some comps of Vader, but not all comps. What you have to do is basically go in with Daka Zombie, Watt, and First Order Officer or Hux or someone like that. Some people like to use Thrawn as well, or even GBA for if you want extra insurance. What this team does is, what you have to do is Vader is going to go and apply dots and days on everyone. With your first turn of SLKR, what you need to do is you need to do your AoE ability to clear the debuffs from everyone and to give advantage to Zombie. That will ensure that Zombie is always taunting. That's very critical. And then after that, with what you before the battle starts, with what you give the tank tech to SLKR to keep him free of debuffs. With First Order Officer or Hux, you keep passing the turn meter back to SLKR so that he keeps doing damage, stunning characters, building up his ultimate. Keep using your second special on stunned characters so that you drain mastery faster. And then as and when you drain mastery from all the tanks, once Lord Vader goes into his ultimate, he then sucks in that negative mastery from his allies, and then it becomes easier to take him out towards the end. So this is one of those battles which will probably take 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes. It takes time, but you should be able to get rid of Lord Vader by the end. If not anything else, you'll at least get rid of his allies, and then you just have Lord Vader standing, even if you don't have time to take him down. If he's like R9 and 2 tanky or something like that. Now JML is another hard counter against Lord Vader. Especially if you go first, you apply ability block, the whole team loses its charm. Even if Maul is in there, they're easily controlled with JML. You can take in, but what I like to do is for JML versus Lord Vader, I like to take in cleanses. So you can go with Shakti, you can go with Jedi Knight Revan. Hermit Yosa has a targeted cleanse as well. Barris has got a great cleanse as well. These are all good characters that you can take in for as Jedi characters with JML to target Lord Vader. GMY is great. He spreads foresight. He gets tons of turn meter, and he's in general a good accompaniment to JML. If you don't take in GMY, it's good to take in at least one other Jedi who can do decent damage, like Cam or JKL or something like that. There are many different options, many different right answers for JML versus Lord Vader. Sith Eternal has a tough time with Lord Vader, but if you have to if you have no other option, you can probably take in Water and Armorer with a couple of tanks and try to survive till you can get to Ultimate, take out a couple of characters. If you can get 3 stacks with Armorer on Sith Eternal, your battle becomes easier. But again, this is one of those battles which can very easily time out as well, because you might not be able to get Lord Vader down at the end with just a solo Sith Eternal. If you've built up mastery fast enough, then maybe it's possible. But that's another option, but I've left it as yellow over there. The two newer GLs, they have an easier time taking out Lord Vader. You've got JMK, who you can take in Cat, Snips, Padme for the cleanse and a tank. General Kenobi is great because he can cleanse. So you've got two sources of cleanse. You've got Padme and General Kenobi in there. That's typically the hard counter against Vader, and shouldn't be much problem at all. With Cat, you should be able to build up damage enough to one-shot Lord Vader towards the end. And then you've got Lord Vader mirror matches, which you don't need to use Maul in there, but if the enemy Lord Vader has Maul, then you also need to reach your ultimate fast. So it's good to have your own Maul at that time. Taking a couple of um, tanks over there, taking Vader to apply ability blocks everywhere. But the most important tank apart from RG is going to be Crew, because other tanks, Crew is not going to be affected by any of the dots at all. Even the rest of the Empire characters will not be affected by dots. But if you Crew, the advantage is his R7. Almost everyone will have him at R7. So there's more mastery that Lord Vader can get from Crew if you decide to take him in versus the enemy Lord Vader. So those are some of the GL counters to Lord Vader. Non-GL, there's really one major counter which has come out so far, and that's the Shakti Troopers counter. The whole concept is Lord Vader goes first, applies daze on everyone. Shakti, if she's faster than anyone else on the enemy team, she goes next and cleanses the debuffs on all the allies. And then the troopers go and they start the turn meter train and they do their stuff and start taking characters out one by one. I've kept this counter in yellow because there are ways to get around it, and there are a lot of people who have started putting fast characters like Vader or Gideon or TFP in there to prevent the Shark Troopers counter to Lord Vader. But I've deliberately left out Starkiller in all of these non-GL counters, but Starkiller also has got a really great way of taking out SLKR, Lord Vader, Sith Eternal, and some of these other GLs as well. But given that he's not going to be accessible to a lot of people for a long time, I've deliberately left out Starkiller in all of these non-GL counters over here. Cleanup for Lord Vader, again, turn meter teams like Troopers are great. Boss Grief Mando, Boss Grief Boba Fennec Mando are a great option, just like to clean up JMK. They're a great option to clean up Lord Vader as well. So those are some options which are there. So the video has gone on long enough. I think that broadly covers most of the counters that I've personally come across for GLs, both the GL counters as well as the non-GL counters. Before I close the video, just a few final thoughts. I mean, what are the big takeaways from all of this? The newer GLs, JMK and Lord Vader, they are tougher to take out compared to the older GLs. So I would prioritize them for defense. If you've got 5 or 6 GLs, if you've got options, I would prioritize JMK and Lord Vader for defense. JMK more than Lord Vader because Lord Vader is slightly easier to take out. JMK, especially with the right combination, is much tougher to take out. But if you're going to place JMK on defense, always place him with Cat. Otherwise, your opponent can very easily gas it or take it out for something really cheap. If you're placing Lord Vader, make sure that it can't be Shark Trooper. Add in a fast Empire character in there to prevent the Shark Trooper counter. That's for the newer GLs. For the mid-level GLs, which is JML and Sith Eternal, both these GLs are very easily taken out on defense, extremely cheaply. JML can be taken out by Sith Eternal, and Sith Eternal, and even JML can even be taken out by some off-meta counters. In fact, Sith Eternal can be taken out very easily with SLKR and also with off-meta counters. Both of these can be countered by General Grievous, for example, and EP Mara and all of that. So I would not keep these on defense. I would save them for offense, because even though they're really easy to take out on defense, they are so flexible on offense and they can counter almost every single GL out there. JML can counter every single GL pretty comfortably, especially if you've got him highly relic, and Sith Eternal can counter at least 5 of the 6 GLs extremely easily. So I would definitely save these two for offense. The older GLs, Rey and SLKR, they can do a decent job on defense, especially if you keep them in the front zone to pull out some of those hard counters like JMK or Lord Vader and all of that. I'm pretty open to keeping these guys on defense if you've got the right comp with them. There are a lot of tricky comps that you can use with Rey, for example. You can put in Cat. You can put in JTR, the heroes. You can put in the scoundrels in there. They can make things really tricky for a Sith Eternal counter or some of the other counters which are more popular for Rey. And for SLKR, you need to get the modding right. If you're putting SLKR on defense, mod him for high speed so that he makes life tough for your opponents, especially with the off-meta JKR, JKL counters. Always mod your Rey for offense to make the Sith Eternal counter a little trickier. So if you're deliberately making a choice to keep the older GLs on defense, which might be the right decision, make sure that you use the right comps and you mod them the right way. And then finally, there are certain other characters that I would really prioritize to keep on offense, just because of the flexibility in either taking out, in countering GLs and off-meta counters or in cleaning up GLs. Those would be GG Newt, JKR, JKL, Armorer, Watt. All these are premium characters that you should never keep on defense, especially if you're planning to keep your own GLs on defense. You need to keep some of these characters on offense so that you have the flexibility to kill or clean up GLs very easily. Similar teams are going to be, the turn meter teams that I talked about: Troopers, Geos, Mon Mothma. They're all great for cleaning up GLs as well. Bounty Hunters, especially with the Relict Up Fennec Shand, they're great for cleaning up GLs. So I would save them for offense as well, unless there's a very strong reason you need to keep them on defense. And there are more expensive options as well for cleanup. CLS, Gas, or Omicron, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Bad Batch. These are all amazing options for cleaning up GLs as well, but they are expensive. I mean, a lot of times you'll want to keep some of these teams on defense as well, but if you want the flexibility to, have them on offense, then you can use them on offense. It's definitely going to be cheaper using them for a GL cleanup than using another GL for a GL cleanup. You don't want to waste two GLs on a single GL when you can waste one GL and maybe one of these other teams for a cleanup. So that's all that I had for this video. Hope you found it useful. I will go ahead and leave a link of the graphic in the description below, in the pinned comments below. So feel free to check that out and take a look at it. And as always, if you've got some better ideas, if you've got some better thoughts on what works, what doesn't work, feel free to let me know about it in the comments, and I can update the graphic as needed. All right, that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in, and I really enjoyed making the video. Really looking forward to hearing from you guys. Take care and happy gaming.